for the first time ever anywhere, the 40...
Leftists will scream helplessly into the sky because Trump. What's up, guys? It's the Kaiju Conservative, and we're coming up on 1 year since Donald J. Trump was elected President of the United States of America. 1 year since the forgotten man and woman declared no more. 1 year since the people stood up to the tyranny of the ruling class. 1 year since the reign of the God Emperor began in earnest. This past year has been especially hard on leftists. They've had to deal with the nightmare of literally Hitler being elected to the highest office in the land. The Democrats promised their followers that this was only a temporary state of affairs. The evidence that Donald Trump had colluded with Russia to steal the election away from Her Majesty Hillary Rodham Clinton was clear to anyone with a kindergarten education. Trump would be impeached within months. The shame of betraying his country would force President Mike Pence to resign in shame. President Paul Ryan, perhaps realizing that the election and the Republican Party was irrevocably tainted, would appoint Hillary Clinton as his vice president. Once she was confirmed, President Ryan would immediately resign. Thus would be ushered in the benevolent tyranny of President Hillary Clinton that the people voted for. By the way, no, I'm not making this up. I've included the link in the description below. Check it out. It's insane. None of that has come to pass, however. Donald Trump is still president, and although he's faced some hurdles and roadblocks, his agenda has been chugging along these last few months. The Russian investigation that so many leftists had pinned their hopes on has now pointed squarely back at Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. The Democrat Party seems to have run out of ideas. What's a poor leftist to do in a situation this dire? Well, according to Newsweek, scream helplessly at the sky, of course. Newsweek says thousands of concerned citizens will take part in a new ritual of sorts, commemorating the anniversary of Donald Trump's election by screaming at the sky. Over 4,000 Facebook users have RSVP'd, another 33,000 are interested in attending, to the November 8th event being held in Boston that is literally titled Scream Helplessly at the Sky on the Anniversary of the Election. Why are these leftists planning to scream helplessly at the sky? Newsweek, again, which is the magazine that was sold for $1, explains. The upcoming Boston Scream Party is a departure from taking action against the administration and its agenda. Instead, Americans will be provided the unique opportunity to vent their rage by shouting at the darkening skies above, all while expecting nothing in return. While the event calls upon people to scream helplessly, we want to convert that sense of helplessness into resistance, into action, and maybe even into optimism, Schulman says. Although it is important to acknowledge the tragedy that befell our country on November 9th, we cannot let it defeat us. In other words, leftists plan on resisting the Trump administration by doing absolutely nothing. I would say this represents a departure from what the left has been doing this past year, except it really doesn't. Up until now, the left strategy against Trump can be summed up as Step 1, impeach Trump because Russia. Step 2, Step 3, President Hillary. The left and the Democrats have not offered any plan of action beyond that. They haven't even told their followers how Trump is supposed to be impeached. The left certainly hasn't offered any policy alternatives to the Trump agenda. How are the Democrats going to handle border security and immigration differently? What are their plans to quote-unquote fix Obamacare? Do they have an alternative to Trump's tax reform plan? These are questions that literally no one on the left has the answer to. This is why I laugh hysterically until I pee myself whenever anyone tells me that the Democrats have a chance to win in 2018 and beyond. What exactly gives anyone this impression? Trump's poll numbers? We saw during the election how horribly skewed the polls were during the election. Are we supposed to start trusting polls that are weighted D plus 10 or greater telling us that the public hates Trump? What about Democrat waves of the past? Yes, Democrats were able to sweep the House and the Senate during the Bush years. However, things were very different back then. The boom of the Clinton years had turned to bust. The Iraq War had sharply divided the country and was probably the most polarizing war since Vietnam. One can argue that the Democrat waves of the Bush era were largely a backlash against George W. Bush. People wanted a change, and the Democrats were the alternative. Then there's the fact that Barack Hussein Obama, arguably the worst president since Jimmy Carter, was elected twice. Again, it was a different era with different circumstances. The U.S. was firmly in the grip of a large housing crisis by the time Barack Obama took office. The Republicans were running one of the squishiest candidates imaginable in the form of John McCain, a man who suspended his campaign so he could vote for TARP, one of the biggest boondoggles in modern history. McCain's strategy consisted of bumbling around and hoping he won, and he wasn't even good enough to do that. Again, in 2012, Republicans ran another squish in the form of Mitt Binders Full of Women Romney. While arguably a better candidate than John McCain, Romney clearly was out of touch with the average person. He couldn't even fake concern for the common man. Although Romney finally did hit his stride after the first debate, it was too little too late. Barack Obama managed to secure a second term, albeit with one of the lowest margins of any election in history. Back then, the Democrats were operating from a position of strength while the Republican Party played catch-up. Today, however, the reverse is true. The economy is finally rebounding from the lackluster performance of the Obama years. The stock market reaches new record highs every week. The job participation rate is the highest it's been perhaps since the 1970s. While there is some division within the upper echelons of the GOP establishment, the base of the party is united firmly behind Trump. Most of the public does not believe that Russia had any influence on the election, and the mainstream media has lost its credibility with average Americans. The 2018 midterms are effectively the GOP's to lose. The Democrats and the left are going to be behind the eight ball in 2018. The left has zero strategy, zero policies, and zero reasons for people to vote for them beyond the rabid hatred of the Trump derangement syndrome bloc. The left has absolutely nothing, and they know it. And that is why the only thing left for them to do is to scream helplessly at the sky.
Honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
On the shoulder. You adjust the microphone as you call, man. Hands on the lectern.